And that's the last we see of the object. We then snap out of our reverie, I suppose, and then we're talking about it. But we don't, at any point, make a link as far as I remember at least, make a link as to what we've just seen and my younger sister Kath being chased up the street by a bloke with a torch in his hand. So we're talking about this for some time. I think we go in and we tell Steve and John, and people are like, yeah, the usual sort of like whatever. And we say, no, we saw it. And after the whole thing with Kath, I think we were just old news and nobody really, as I remember, nobody really paid any attention. So myself and Paul, because Julie's not having any of this, his sister, we decide after quite a bit of discussion, because we're afraid as we're going to, in the direction we're going to be traveling, there's an area which is unlit. It's dark and it's not very pleasant. So we decide that we're going to tell my brother Sav and our other two friends, Glenn and Brian. Now, Glenn has sadly passed away a few years ago. But we were quite a tight group of friends, really, when we were growing up. Bunch of misfits, if I'm being honest. So if I flip this around again, you'll see that block of houses on the right side there going down the street. The house where we started this story is the last one on the right there that you can see. And if the marker shows up, it's this one here. That one right in the end there. So we have to walk up here, which is well lit by yellow street lamps, as I remember. Go up here, well lit. All the way up here. And this is where we're supposed to be traveling. This is the route we're going to take, right, as we, man up. And we go up here, past the two sets of flats, and we come to this road on the left. Now, this road on the left was back then a brand new road, and it serviced the housing estate, which is behind these two blocks of flats here. Behind a large estate. And it was very poorly lit. And what we're going to end up having to do is go down what is called Bluebell Drive here. And as you go down, there's a lane that goes up. Now, I'll take you down there very quickly, well, as quickly as Google will allow me to. We would have gone down here. And again, this would have been lit. And that's the lane. Now, it didn't look like this back then. It was a lot more spooky. And that orange object you can see at the end of the lane there is actually a wooden fence belonging to a house. Are there others here? I can't quite tell if there are anymore. So if I open that up slightly and then move it up, you'll see the lane goes up. Now, what you can't see, mind you, having said that, the road sign there you can see forks, or rather turns right. That's where the lane goes. It goes up and to the right. This road here, or rather pathway leading to the left, leads into the estate. Now then, this lane becomes important because the estate had a security guard who we used to get along with. And we could hang out with him. And it was great because he had tea and biscuits, cookies, for those of you who aren't of a UK disposition. So he had tea and biscuits and girly mags. And as young lads, the tea and biscuits were great, but the girly mags were better. And we used to talk about stuff. Back then, it was like a different time. I can't ever imagine kids doing that now, in the modern world. But that's what we used to do. So the reason I'm taking you up Canterbury Hill now is to give you a better angle to tell you the next part of the story. So, whilst we were down the hill outside my house, or the house where I grew up at least, and we were debating, or rather when we were debating going up to the building site through the spooky lane that we frankly didn't want to go up, to tell my brother Brian and Glenn what we'd seen, bit of a flex. They were having their own experience. Now, I'm just trying to get it. There we go. That's probably a better view. Now, where I just brought you from is down here. That's the road, Bluebell Drive, that leads to the estate, or what would have been back then the building site, which was there weren't any real houses built up there. It was a kind of fresh building site. The ground had been cleared, and the walls were just being put up in certain areas and what have you. And the security guard hut was at the top end of the building site. And if you looked from approximately this point, now you have to bear in mind that the security guard hut is on the other side of these hedges, the other side of this lane that I just outlined to you earlier. And if you look left, you would be looking down into the building site as a whole. And if you turned your back on the building site and looked out at the other set of windows, you would see an open field, which was very much like this. Now, this path hooks right and leads into a bunch of allotments, which is behind this tree here. Okay? So at some point after our sighting, and not long after our sighting as far as we can gather, and remember again, it's dark, they're sat in the dimly lit security guard hut, a port cabin effectively, drinking tea, eating biscuits, and looking at girly mags. And they become aware, looking out onto the open field, effectively looking to the right of this picture, if you like. So if there's a security guard hut behind those hedges, round about here, let's say, hopefully the marker will show up, and they're looking to the right into an open field. They notice a glow on the other side of these hedges that you can see in front of you in the middle of the screen. Now, they said that they thought it was a vehicle going up this dirt road initially to the allotments, but it was in the evening. The allotments were shut. So they watched with some interest to see what was going to happen, whether the vehicle was just turning around or whatever it might be. And the light kept going, and it went right up to the hedges that line the lane, which would have been to their right as they're looking. And it was bright, and it got right up to the lane hedge that you can see in front of you there. It bounced over the lane hedge, clearing the lane and both hedges, landed in the field on the other side of these hedges, which was effectively the field in front of them as they're looking at it, and to their amazement, gracefully bounced along the field until it went out of sight. The best I mean, it had to be over 100 yards. And that was their sighting. Now, as I say, myself and Paul, we'd made our mind up to be the big hard men and make the frankly risky journey through the dark lane to tell my brother Glenn and Brian what we'd seen. So I'm now taking you back down to the flats at the bottom of Countersbury Hill, because as we're walking up, planning our route to coincide with the most lighting that we can find, because we're not scared or anything, you understand, we see somebody belting down the hill, running down the hill towards us. So we saw them effectively coming by the grass around here, coming down towards us in front of these flats. Now let me try and get a better view actually of that. I'm not sure if I'll be able to, but right, so yeah, let's use this one. So when we realise that it's my brother Glenn and Brian, we start running up towards them, and we effectively stop somewhere around this streetlight. Now this fence that you see here didn't exist back then, so we were kind of standing half on the pavement, half on the path and half on the grass. And when we meet up, myself and my brother say at exactly the right time, "You'll never guess what we just saw." And then the whole story comes out. Now, it's odd, but it wasn't until years later. It's strange to say it, but it wasn't until years later that that I became aware that 3 members of the same family saw it. Kath first, then me, then my brother. And Kath was the youngest, I'm the next oldest, and my brother, Sav, is the 3rd oldest. Does that mean anything? I've no idea. But what it did do was it ended up being filed away with all the other strange things that happened to us as a family. And I do have thoughts about the origins of these things and why they happened to us, and the unlikely pairing of my mum and dad, and the very difficult upbringing that we all had under them for various reasons. I'll fill in those other stories at a later date, and hopefully they'll be of some interest to people, and maybe other people will identify with them. And in the most extreme circumstances, who knows, maybe there may be some answers there. Maybe my sighting will link up with someone else's sighting close to the time or on the same night, whenever that was. I can't quite remember. And that's it. That's the story. So do let me know what you think in the comments below. Do like, subscribe, and share if you'd like. And until next time, bye-bye.